Do you remember your first love? The kind of love that feels so big, so powerful. You are sure it will last forever. When you are young, your heart is so open and so sure. You think you have the whole world and your whole future figured out. But the person you are at 18 is not always the same person you are at 28. We grow, we change, we become new people. What happens when you promise your forever to someone before you even know who you are? This is a story about a love that was perfect for a time, but a time that was too short. Do you believe that first love can last forever? I would love to read your story in the comments. My name is Mia, and I was a wife at 19 years old. My love story with Jack was like a movie about a perfect small-town romance. We met when we were 16. He was the captain of the football team, and I was a quiet girl who loved to read. We fell in love so fast and so completely. He was my first boyfriend, my first kiss, my first everything. With him, I felt brave and beautiful. We were inseparable. We would spend our evenings dreaming about our future. We planned it all out, a small house with a white fence, 2 children, and a dog. We were so sure of our love. We were so sure of our future. We thought we knew everything. We graduated from high school and we did not want to be apart. All our friends were going to different colleges, to different cities. The thought of being separated was a physical pain. So, we made a decision. A big decision. We decided to get married. We were only 19. Our parents were worried. "You are so young," my mother told me, her eyes full of a gentle concern. "You have your whole life ahead of you. What is the rush?" But we did not listen. We were in love. And when you are in love, and 19, you think you are old enough for anything. You think your love is stronger than any challenge. So we got married. We had a simple, sweet wedding in my parents' backyard. All our high school friends were there. We promised to love each other forever. And in that moment, under the summer sky, I believed that promise with all my heart. The first few years of our marriage were a mix of happy and hard. We rented a tiny apartment. I worked as a waitress, and Jack worked at his father's hardware store. We did not have much money. We were learning how to be adults. We learned how to pay bills, how to cook real meals, how to be husband and wife. It was difficult, but we had each other. We were a team. We were happy. We were living the simple, perfect life we had always dreamed of. But then, something started to change. Or, I started to change. As I got a little older, I started to feel that the world was bigger than our small town. I started to read different kinds of books. I took a free online class about photography. A new curiosity, a new hunger for the world, started to grow inside me. I started to dream new dreams, not about a house with a white fence, but about traveling to new places, about seeing the mountains, about learning a new language. Jack did not change. He was the same sweet, simple boy I had fallen in love with at 16. He was happy with our life. He loved his job. He loved our small town. And he loved our quiet evenings watching TV. He did not want more. He did not understand why I did. One night, I came home from the restaurant, my heart full of a new, big idea. "Jack," I said, my voice full of excitement. "I was thinking, what if we saved all our money for a year and we went backpacking through Europe? We could see the world." I expected him to be excited too, but he just looked at me with a confused smile. "Backpacking? Why would we do that, Mia?" he asked. "Our life is here. We have everything we need. We have my job. We have our friends. Our families are here. Everything is perfect." I looked at my husband, the boy I loved so much, and for the first time, I felt a small, sad, and cold distance between us. We were looking at the future, but we were looking in 2 completely different directions. The small, sad distance I felt that night slowly grew into a wide, quiet canyon between us. We were still Mia and Jack, the perfect high school couple. But we were not the same people anymore. I continued to work as a waitress, but now I was saving my money for a different dream. I had a small jar in my closet where I put my tips. I called it my someday fund, and I did not know where someday was, but I knew it was somewhere outside of our small town. I would go to the library and take out books about faraway places, with pictures of big mountains and blue oceans. I was traveling in my mind. Jack continued to live the life we had always planned. He was happy. He worked hard at the hardware store, and he was good at his job. He would come home, and he would tell me about his day. He would talk about our old friends from high school, about the new truck he wanted to buy, about his dream of buying a small house near his parents. He was still living in our old, shared dream. And I was dreaming of a new one. Our conversations became two different stories happening at the same time. I would try to tell him about an interesting article I read about a different culture. He would listen, but his eyes were not really interested. He would say, "That's nice, Mia," and then he would ask me what I wanted to watch on TV. I started to feel so lonely. I was married to my best friend, the person who was supposed to know my whole heart. But he did not know my heart anymore, because I did not really know it myself. I just knew it wanted something more. I started to feel guilty. I was the one who was changing. He was still the same kind, loving, and steady Jack he had always been. He was keeping his promise. Was I the one who was breaking it? I had promised to love him forever. But did that mean I had to promise to be the same person forever too? The love I had for him was still there, but it was now mixed with a sad, frustrating feeling that he did not understand the new person I was becoming. The turning point, the moment when our two different paths finally came to a real crossroad, was when I saw a poster at the local library. The community college was offering a summer study program, a 6-week course in Italy, to study art history. It was not too expensive. I had almost enough money in my someday fund. My heart started to beat so fast. It was not a vague dream in a book anymore. It was a real possibility, a chance to see a small piece of the big world I dreamed about. I ran home, the brochure in my hand. I was so full of a nervous, hopeful excitement. I thought, maybe if he sees how much this means to me, he will understand. I waited for him to come home from work. I made his favorite dinner. Then, I sat down with him, and I showed him the brochure. "Look, Jack," I said, my voice shaking a little. "It's a summer program, in Italy. I have always dreamed of going there. I have enough money saved. I could go." He looked at the pictures of beautiful old buildings and sunny streets. He did not look excited. He looked scared. "Italy," he said, "for the whole summer? What would you do there?" I tried to explain my passion, my dream of seeing the art I had only read about in books. "But what about me?" he asked, his voice full of a quiet hurt. "What about our life here? My job, our home? Our dream was to do things together, Mia." He looked at me, his face so full of confusion. "I don't understand," he said. "I thought you were happy. What happened to the girl I married, the girl who wanted a simple life with me?" His words were like a punch to my stomach. He did not see me, the woman I was now. He only saw the girl I used to be, the girl he was still in love with. And he was right to be confused. I was not that girl anymore. And I did not know how to be her again. The weeks after that conversation were the most difficult of our marriage. Our tiny apartment, which was once our happy, safe haven, was now full of a heavy, sad tension. The application form for the Italy program sat on our small kitchen table. It was a piece of paper, but it felt like a wall between us. I loved Jack. I loved the boy I had known since I was 16. The thought of hurting him, of leaving him even for a summer, was so painful. But the thought of not going, of throwing away this one chance to see a bigger world, felt like I was giving up on a person I had not even met yet. The future me. I knew this was not just about a trip. This was about my life. I had to choose. After many long, sleepless nights, I made my decision. I filled out the application. A few weeks later, I received a letter. I was accepted. My hands were shaking as I read the words. It was real. My dream was real. Now, I had to tell my husband. That night, the conversation was quiet and heartbreaking. I told him that I was going. He did not yell. He just looked at me with eyes full of a deep, sad betrayal. "So, you are choosing a trip over our marriage," he said, his voice flat. "No, Jack," I said, my own voice full of tears. "I am not choosing a trip over you. I am choosing me. I feel like I am disappearing. I need to know who I am, outside of this town, outside of the girl I was in high school. I need to do this for myself." "But I fell in love with that girl," he said, his voice breaking. "I don't even know who you are anymore." His words were the simple, painful truth. He did not know who I was becoming, and I did not know either. That night, we both understood that the problem was not Italy. The problem was us. We were two people who had started on the same path, but were now walking in two different directions. We decided, with so much sadness, that we needed a break, a separation. I would go to Italy for the summer, and we would use that time to think about our future, and if we still had one together. The day I left for the airport was terrible. We cried. We held each other. We both said, "I love you." But it felt like we were saying goodbye, not just for the summer, but forever. As the airplane took off, I looked down at my small town, getting smaller and smaller, and I cried for the boy I was leaving behind, and for the simple, happy life that was not enough for me anymore. But my time in Italy was a revelation. It was like my whole life had been in black and white, and suddenly I was seeing in color. I studied art. I ate new, delicious food. I learned a little bit of Italian. I made friends with other students from all over the world. They were all so different, with different dreams and different stories. My world became so big, so full of new ideas and possibilities. I felt my mind and my heart opening up. I was happy. It was a new kind of happiness, a happiness that was all my own. I missed Jack. I missed his kindness and his familiar smile. But I realized that I missed him like you miss a dear friend from your childhood. I did not miss him like a wife misses her husband. I was not lonely without him. I was myself. Finally. One sunny afternoon, I was sitting in a beautiful piazza in Florence. I was drinking a coffee and writing in my journal, and I knew, with a sad but certain heart, what I had to do. I took out a piece of paper, and I started to write a letter to my husband. The last letter I would ever write to him. In that quiet Italian piazza, I wrote the most honest and the most painful letter of my life. I wrote to Jack. I told him that I would always love the 16-year-old boy who held my hand and promised me a simple, happy future. I thanked him for our beautiful young love story. I told him that he was a wonderful, kind man, and that he deserved a wife who shared his beautiful dream. And then I told him the hardest truth, that I was not that woman anymore. I had found a new part of myself, a part that needed to see the world, to learn, to grow. I told him that the most loving thing we could do was to let each other go, so we could both be free to find the lives we were meant to live. I signed the letter. Your friend, always Mia. A few weeks later, I received a letter back from him. It was short, and it was full of a sad, kind understanding. He wrote that he did not really understand my new dreams, but he understood that they were important to me. He wrote that he missed the girl he married, but he knew she was gone. He wrote that he wanted me to be happy, and he agreed. It was time to say goodbye. When I returned from Italy at the end of the summer, our divorce was quiet and respectful. It was the sad, gentle end of our first chapter. I did not move back to my small town. I could not. I moved to a big city, a place full of museums and libraries, and people from all over the world. I found a small apartment and a job working in an art gallery. My life was not easy. I was alone in a big city. But I was so happy. I was learning and growing every day. I was finally living a life that was my own, a life that I was building for myself. I was not just Jack's wife anymore. I was Mia. Several years passed. I went home to visit my parents. My small town was just the same as I remembered. One afternoon, I was walking past the little park where Jack and I used to have picnics, and I saw him. He was there, on a blanket with a woman. She had a kind, open face, and between them, a little boy was playing with a ball. Jack was laughing, a real deep and happy laugh. He was living his dream. The small house with the white fence, the family, the simple, happy life. He saw me, and he smiled. A real, friendly smile. I walked over. We talked for a few minutes. It was not sad or awkward. It was comfortable. He asked me about my life, my job in the city. He seemed genuinely happy for me. I looked at him, and his new, happy family, and my heart was full. Not with regret, but with a warm, gentle affection. He was a good man, and he had found the life he was always meant to live. As I walked away, I smiled too. I had married too young. Our love story was a beautiful, perfect story for two kids who did not know the world yet. But we grew up, we changed, and our love did not grow with us. Our love was not a failure. It was a beautiful, necessary chapter. A chapter that taught me that sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of your own. And sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go. If this story about growing up and growing apart was meaningful to you, please give this video a like. Do you think people can grow apart after falling in love? Share your thoughtful story in the comments. For more emotional English stories that will help you learn, please be sure to follow our channel.